Now, what really kicks it up a notch from yesterday and from your previous experience with the distributive property is using negatives when we distribute. So that's lesson 5. We're going to continue that distributive process where we're going to take the number on the outside. Notice it's directly next to a parenthesis. There's no plus or minus in between. And we're going to multiply it by every term on the inside. The thing that you need to remember is the Dorito, okay? A negative times a negative is a positive, and a negative times a positive is a negative. I think I said that right. So I have a negative 3 times a positive 2. A negative times a positive is a negative 6x plus a negative 3 times 4. A negative times a positive is negative 12. Now, if you look at this here starts to get a little gobbly-goopy and confusing. What we'd like you to start thinking is, oh, if I'm adding a negative, I'm putting a negative together with something else. I'm really subtracting. So I could write this as 6x minus 12. Because remember, if I chose to add my inverse here, I'd get plus a negative 12. So I want you to start trying to think of using as few symbols as you can, because this starts to get real gobbly-goopy. And think of that minus sign here as the negative to the 12. But either of these are correct. So we're going to start thinking about that, but if you're not there yet, that's okay too. Now, what do you suppose is in front of here? Because I don't see a number. I hope you said that you think there's probably an invisible 1 there. That's what I hope. Okay. Remember, we have invisible 1s as exponents. If you have x and you don't see a number, it's a 1. And if you have x, the coefficient, if you don't see it, it's a 1. So this is another place where we have sort of this invisible 1. We're going to take this negative 1 and distribute it to get negative 2x. And then negative 1 times 4. I want you to think about negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. So I'm going to write negative 4 as if it were minus 4. Because remember, if I were to add the inverse, I'd have plus negative. But that looks yucky. So we just want one symbol there. Oh boy, things are getting even more complex now. I told you that when you have a number directly next to a parenthesis, like this is here, that you distribute it. Well, this number's here, but it's not directly next to the parenthesis. So guess what? We only distribute the number that's directly next to the parenthesis. And you need to remember that the sign in front of it goes with it. So this is a negative 2 times 3x. What do I do with this 8x? Just bring it down. Negative 2 times 3x is minus 6x. And be super careful here. Negative 2 times, this is a negative 4. Negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. That is the hardest part about distributing with negatives. Remembering that the sign in front of it goes with it. So this is a negative 2 times a negative 4. A negative times a negative is a positive 8. So now we got rid of the parentheses, but now we have some like terms. 8x minus 6x is 2x plus 8, and now this expression is fully simplified. Well, what happens when you have the single number at the end? Well, there's two things you can do. You can distribute this way, 9 times negative 5 and 9 times 3x. We usually do our x first. We go in alphabetical order and then have your constants at the end. So this would be 27x. And then remember, the sign in front of it goes with it. So that's 9 times negative 5, which is minus 45. If that's too weird for you to sort of distribute backwards, I'm going to actually take it and use the commutative property. Remember, commutative means order. And I'm just going to switch. Instead of having the 9 at the end, I'm going to put the 9 in the front. So the order changed. The 9 is now in front. And when I multiply 9 times 3x, I get 27x. And when I multiply 9 times negative 5, because the sign in front of it goes with it, I get minus 45. So notice these are the same. So it doesn't matter which method you use as long as you understand it. All right, let's go to the next page where we're going to practice. I'm going to encourage you to stop the video, try it, and then start it up again to see if you agree with me. This example has a number directly next to a parenthesis, so we're going to distribute, but it looks different than the others we've done because there's 3 terms. But that's okay. We're still going to distribute that 3 to all terms. And end up with this. Now, like I said before, we typically like to have them in alphabetical order. So I'm just going to rearrange them so the A and the B come before the C. But it's not mathematically incorrect if you have this. It's just, one of those mathy weird things. All right. You might want to pause and try number 6. Unpause, hopefully. 6 times x. Now, do I distribute the 6 over here? This is not in the parentheses, so we just kind of leave that there. We're going to distribute the 6 inside the parentheses because that 6 is directly next to a parenthesis with nothing next to it. So we're going to get 6x plus 30, and then outside of the parenthesis, we have an 11x. The 6x and the positive 11x are like terms. So we have 17x plus 30, and now we have no parentheses and no like terms, so that's simplified. Again, here we have a number directly next to a parenthesis, so we're going to take that negative 2 and distribute it into the parentheses. But this plus 10c is not in the parentheses, so we do not distribute over there. Negative 2 times 2c is negative 4c, and negative 2 times positive 5 is minus 10. Now we have like terms of negative 4c and positive 10c. That's 6c and minus 10. No parentheses, no like terms. We have a number directly next to a parenthesis. So we're going to distribute that integer to everything in the parentheses. Again, that plus 7b is not in the parentheses, so it just kind of hangs out waiting. Negative 9 times b is negative 9b, and be super careful here. This is a negative 9 times a negative 4. The sign in front of it goes with it. So a negative 9 times a negative 4 is a positive 36. The b's are like terms. I add those together. Negative 2b plus 36. The next two are very similar to what we've just been doing, so give those a shot. And there you have it. If you have any questions on any of those, please let your teacher know so that we can help you figure out this process while you're not in school.